In football, we tend to think that the most dangerous and dangerous injury is a broken bone or a torn muscle. But as we know, the real hidden danger is actually the invisible injury. It comes from the thousands of small and repeated hits to the head, right? And these constant shocks cause the brain to rattle inside the skull. And over time, the damage silently destroys the mind. On the outside, the player might still look fine and strong, but inside, he's slowly losing his memory, personality, emotion, and even his identity. And eventually, he becomes just a shell of himself and is just not the same anymore. We've heard of this kind of stories, right? A lot of stats out there. And similar things happen spiritually to us as well. The devil doesn't always attack with a sudden crisis that knocks you down. Instead, he hits you with constant and repeated lies that strike your head, your mind. These spiritual shocks make you numb and make you spiritually lukewarm. They slowly change your soul until you forget who you are in God. And to prevent this loss of yourself, we must protect our head. That is why Paul today, in verse 17, commands us to take the helmet of salvation. Helmet of salvation. So what is the helmet? And was it really important? Ancient soldiers knew exactly why they needed the helmet. They knew the head was the enemy's primary target. So these helmets were built for survival. They were made from very heavy bronze, and you've probably seen, right, the Roman soldiers wearing the helmet. It has the cheek guard, and also it guards in the neck, because you can get hit from the side and also from the back, from the blind side. And most importantly, inside the helmet, they included a thick lining of leather or a cushion to absorb the shock. So even if you get hit, you will be able to survive and think clearly and stand on your feet and counterattack the enemy. Then for us, what is the helmet? What is the helmet for us? Our helmet is salvation. Salvation. Salvation protects our head, our mind. Our mind is the command center of our soul. The mind is where we define our identity, our direction, and our value. In other words, our mind, our head, is where we ask really fundamental questions such as, who am I? Who am I really? And where am I going? And what is my worth? Do I even matter? So these kind of fundamental questions that make up who we are, it all happen in our mind, in our head. And just like the ancient enemy, the devil targets your head. He targets our mind. He's powerless, right? He's powerless to cancel your salvation, because salvation is a gift from God. And as we know, nothing can separate us from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ. But while the devil cannot touch your salvation, he can attack your assurance of it, your certainty of it. If he can make you doubt of your salvation, he can make you doubt about your salvation. You become like a soldier who has forgotten his identity, his destination, and his purpose. And as we know, a confused soldier is a useless soldier. So today we are going to look at how the devil attacks our mind. We'll see how he targets our identity, direction, and value. Identity, direction, and our value. And how he constantly and repeatedly hits our head. And we are going to see how the helmet of salvation would protect our head. So first, the devil attacks our identity. The devil attacks our identity. But why? Have you thought about why the devil attacks our identity? Because you act according to who you believe you are. Think about a student in math class. Maybe it describes your past. If the student convinces himself, oh, I'm really stupid, I'm really bad at math. Math is something that I can't do. Then if he really believes, if he thinks that that's his identity, I'm not a math guy, then he will stop trying. When he sees a really hard mathematical problem, he gives up because he knows he will ultimately and inevitably fail. And he lives down that label. But if that same student believes that I'm a learner, I might not be the best at math, but I'm a learner, that's my identity, then he will persist and he will be able to solve the problems and he'll be good at maths. That is why the devil attacks your identity. He knows that he cannot drag you away. He knows he cannot drag you away, but he can make you drift away by making you believe in his lies. He cannot touch you. Got it? He cannot touch you, but he can make you move by lying to your identity. So how does he do that? How does he attack our identity? He whispers that you are what you did. You are what you did. He tells you that you are a fake, a failure, and you're a hypocrite. And if that doesn't work, he whispers you that you are a victim. He tells you that you are what was done to you. He tries to convince you that you are permanently broken by your trauma and that you should just stay low down there, being bitter about it, and blame other people for the rest of your life and stay there. You are what was done to you. And if that doesn't crush you because you are so optimistic, then the devil tries to define your identity by your success. He whispers that you are your career, that you are the perfect mom, your perfect wife, that you are a self-made man, to puff you off until you believe that you are better than most people and you don't need God. You are a self-made person. Whether the identity is a loser or a victim or a winner, the devil's goal is the same. All three of them force you to look for the identity within yourself. And makes you leave the only identity that eternally matters, which is a child of God. And these are 1,000 shocks that rattle our mind every day. And these are the lies that makes us spiritually numb. And if you feel lukewarm today about God, about Jesus, what Jesus has done, if your heart is spiritually lukewarm, and if that's you are, it's not necessarily because you don't care about God, but it's because probably you have forgotten who you are, your identity, who you are in Jesus Christ. You might have unconsciously listened to the devil 1,000 times. And even without noticing, you might have drifted away from the heart of God. 1 inch at a time, 1,000 inches. But what do we do when the devil attacks like that 1,000 times? Paul tells us to take the helmet of salvation. Last year we learned that salvation is not just about, oh, I believe in Jesus Christ and I go to heaven when I die, right? It's like paper thin helmet. But we learned that salvation is very rich and sturdy and strong. We looked at salvation for 4 months. You remember that? Okay, so we are going to talk about one of them, which is the adoption. Do you remember learning about adoption? After you are justified by your faith in Jesus Christ, God calls you my child because you have become clean. And God accepts you as and adopts you as his child. So adoption is the legal act of God where God brings the outsider into his family. And in the Roman world, adoption was very, very powerful because adoption could not be canceled. Think about this. This is actually very interesting because in the Roman world, natural-born son can be disowned, but not the adopted child. Interesting, right? That was the idea Paul was bringing. So the adoption that we are talking about here, and also it's not just about the legal change. It's not just saying that, oh yeah, you have become the child of God. That's it. It's so much more than that. It means it's change in a personal relationship with God. Think about this. Jesus taught us to call God what? Right. Abba, Father. Abba, Father. In Jewish culture of that time, this was really revolutionary because Abba was the first word a baby was learned to say. Abba, Abba. It was the simple language at home and the dinner table. The child would constantly say, Abba, Abba. Right? And in the Jewish leaders at the time, they really focused on like calling God, holy God, and there's a huge distance between God and humans. But Jesus invited us to call God in the most intimate term. And this kind of closeness and intimacy is found nowhere in other religions. No other religions dare to invite you to this kind of intimacy. In Islam, Allah is just utterly majestic. And to call him, I asked some of the Muslims, can you call Allah Father? And they said, no, it's disrespectful and inappropriate. What about in Hinduism? The divine is often impersonal, or there are too many to even feel close to them. In Buddhism, the goal isn't even trying to know a personal God. It is to transcend the self. Even in Judaism, though God is sometimes called Father, the most prayers are marked by reverence and distance. Only in Christianity, through our Lord Jesus Christ, we call him Abba, Abba Father, in the most intimate term. So my brothers and sisters, when the devil tries to lie about who you are, that you are a sinner, you are a hypocrite, you are a victim, you are a winner, that you can be independent from God, you put the helmet of adoption and you say, no, I'm an adopted child of God and I cannot be canceled. And my Heavenly Father dearly and truly loves me. And my adoption cannot be canceled. And that's who I am. That's my true identity. I am a child of God. And I'm going to live according to my identity. And that is how you protect your identity. But identity is not the only thing the devil attacks. Second, the devil attacks our direction. Devil attacks our direction. But why direction? Because direction determines your ability to keep going. Think about running. If I tell you to run as fast as you can, but if I don't tell you where the finish line is, you are going to give up pretty soon. Because not because you're just physically really tired, but because you're mentally defeated. You think to yourself, oh, what's the point of running? I'm really tired and I don't even know where I'm going. But if I tell you, hey, there's a finish line, keep running. And you are going to push through the cramps, you're going to push through sweat and rain because you see the finish line. It is also the same same spiritually. If you know you are marching toward heaven in your life, where Jesus is, and Jesus will tell you, well done, good and faithful servant, then you can endure suffering, rejection, and hardship today. But if you lose the sight of destination, that your destination is heaven, where Jesus is, if you lose that, then Christian life will just feel like a lot of rules and obligations. And there's no reason for, obligations as rules like that. And you will be very much likely to give up and just remain as a lukewarm spiritual consumer. So how does the devil really lies about your direction, that your heaven is your direction? The devil whispers to you that your salvation is not secure. He shows that you have your ongoing sin in your life, and he will show your failures and how slowly you're growing, and it's just better not to grow. He'll tell you that you have crossed the line of salvation, and you have already lost your salvation, and you're probably not saved. You're not a child of God. And if you still have it, you will certainly lose it. And if that doesn't work, the devil will lie and say the Christian journey is too long, and the sacrifice is too big, and the return on investment is really bad. You probably just should give up being a Christian. And if that doesn't stop you, he attacks the finish line. He tells you the heaven is just a wishful thinking. Yeah, it's somewhere out there. And he shows the world that it's so much more concrete and real. And the devil's lies, 1,000 lies, constantly shock your head and disorient our mind and confuse us. So what do? Paul tells us to take the helmet of salvation. And last year we learned another step of salvation, which is very important. Do you remember perseverance of saints? Perseverance of saints. This is a very crucial part of salvation. Perseverance of saints is the promise that true believers will remain in the faith until the very end. Perseverance is the promise that true believers will remain until the very end. But the important thing that we learned about perseverance of saints is not that we persevere. It's not that we persevere, not because we are strong or faithful, but because God perseveres, because God is faithful. Imagine a little boy climbing a steep trail into the mountain, and the boy gets tired, and he slows down, and he might even slip. But his father never lets go of his hand. The boy reaches the top because the boy is strong? No, because the father was holding his hand and grabbing him all the way to the top of the mountain. That is called perseverance of the saints. Those God He chooses, He will take them to the end. And when you put this helmet of perseverance, you can fight back the devil and say, when the devil says, hey, you already lost your salvation and you are going to lose your salvation, look at you, then what you say? You say, no, I am held by Christ and no one can snatch me out of my Father's hand. He will persevere and He will lead me home. When the devil tells you to give up because the journey is hard and you are so weak, what do you say? You say, no. In Philippians 1:6 tells me that God, who began a good work in me, will carry it on to completion. He will carry me on. And when the devil whispers you to focus on this world, because the world is all there is, and the heaven is just a fairy tale, what do you say? You say, no, I am sent from heaven as an ambassador to this world. So yeah, I'm living in this world, but I am not of this world. My home is in heaven, my citizenship is in heaven, and the best is yet to come. And I am not going to love the world, even though it might be attractive, entertaining, and appealing. I am a child of God, a citizen of heaven. But the devil doesn't just lie about identity and direction, but also it lies about our value. This is very important. But why value? Why does the devil attack value? Because you treat yourself based on what you think you are worth. Let's think about how you treat your car. If you drive a rusted junk car that you just bought for $500, you probably won't care if it has a dent. If somebody crashes you into and has a fender, you probably say, oh, it's fine, just go, it's fine. Why? Because it's only $500. That's how you're gonna treat. And you're gonna just eat messy food in it, and you're gonna leave the trash on the floor, and you don't wash your car for months even after, the snow, right? You probably won't care. Why? Because it has very low value for you. But if you drive a brand new luxury car, and we have a person, we just bought a brand new car, Sam, and I went to his car. He really wanted me to see it, and I really wanted to see it too. He'd been saving a lot of money for it, and he drove all the way from Atlanta. So I got into his car, and I was surprised because he didn't even take the plastic cover from the monitor because he loves it. He really cares about it. And he parked far away to avoid scratches from the car. And he probably doesn't let anyone eat inside. And right? If something is really valuable, that's how you treat, right? And it's the same with your soul. If the devil can convince you that you are just a spiritual junk car, which is cheap and broken and worthless, and you are going to treat yourself just like that. You will sell your soul for a cheap price to the devil, to the world. And you are going to give your body, the way you use your body, you are going to give it, sell it to the devil for a cheap pleasure. And you will sell your integrity for a little approval because you have very low value of yourself. You will trade your most precious asset, which is your attention. You are going to give your attention to mindlessly doom scrolling because deep inside you believe that your life doesn't really matter that much. But if you believe that you are infinitely valuable, you will keep yourself holy and clean because you know you are too valuable to be trashed by sin. So the devil continually tries to lowball your value. First, he devalues you with guilt. He points to your past sins, tells you that you have too many dents in your life, you have too many hurts, and you can't properly function, your emotion is broken, and you're too dirty to be loved, and God's disgusted by everything that you've done. And if that doesn't work, he tries to devalue you by comparing you with other people. He points to other people who are smarter than you, richer than you, more advanced than you in your age, more recognized or more spiritual than you are. And he tells you that compared to them, you are just small and you don't really matter to God. Why would God notice you? Because there's somebody like really spiritual person out there. Wouldn't God listen to that person's prayer? You're not that valuable. That is the devil's voice. And if that doesn't work, he sets a trap. He tells you that you are valuable because you're doing really well, you are successful, the world praises you, and you're productive. And this is actually a setup. Because the day is coming when you won't do so well. The economy can go down. You might be able to lose money, and you might lose your health. You might be gossiped by a lot of people, and your reputation might be, might collapse. Then how are you going to feel about yourself? So that is a setup by the devil. So these are the 1,000 lies that really devalue our soul. And if you feel worthless today about yourself, it is likely because you listened to the devil and forgot the price God paid to redeem you. So what do we do here? Again, take the helmet of salvation. And last year we learned something really important. The one stage of salvation is justification by faith. We learned that justification by faith is the bedrock of salvation. That is the basis of Protestant. That's what made Protestant theology possible out of Catholic. Remember, justification by faith. So what is justification by faith? It is that the moment you believe in Jesus, that he died for your sins, you become righteous because of the exchanges between his righteousness and your sin. He gives you his righteousness and he takes away your sin. And this is an instant and most beautiful exchange and transaction that we can possibly experience in our lives. But you might wonder, how does that exchange and how does that transaction give me a value? How does it tell me that I am worthy? Think about a very simple rule of economics. You are only willing to pay what you believe an item is truly worth, right? We have several people who got engaged recently. And Hannah is not here, but we have several people, right, got engaged. And you probably know this a lot better than most people. When you went to Jacob, when you went to buy the ring, you didn't just walk into the store and just throw the cash to the counter, right? You probably did a thorough examination of the ring. You looked at the clarity, the cut, and the carats, and you probably compared different stones, different diamonds, because you were determined not to overpay. You were making sure that you're not overpaying. You only swipe your card only when you're certain that the price perfectly matched the actual value of the diamond. Right? That's how we buy things. Right? So, look at the cross with the same principle. Look at the cross. What was the price that God paid for you to redeem you, to get you, to purchase you? What price did God pay to get you? He did not pay you with silver or gold or even diamond. He paid the infinite cost of his own Son, Jesus Christ. And God is not a fool. He is greater than the greatest economist, right? He does not overpay. If he paid the infinite price for you, it is because he did a thorough examination of your heart and saw the infinite value in you. That you are made in the image of God. That's how you were created in the beginning. That's how much you are worth to God. So my brothers and sisters, let's wrap up the sermon. Remember this. The devil is targeting your head. And your head is your mind. And your mind is your identity of who you are, direction, where you're going, your value, your how valuable I am. And devil will constantly attack those three things. 1,000 times will disorient you, confuse you about what you already have. The salvation, the great salvation that God has given you, which cannot be taken away by the devil. The devil will not be able to touch it, steal it, cancel it. But he will constantly attack you to confuse you so that he will make you powerless. And if our church is made of more than half of the people who are confused about their salvation, they're lukewarm spiritual consumers, even if we have a lot of new people who are trying to come to know God, they will not come to be believers because we are powerless soldiers, right? So my brothers and sisters, take the helmet of salvation and fight against all the devil's attacks on your head. Amen?